What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow, so today we are back going to be talking about Survivor Season 41, Episode 4. I think I got confused about what I was saying because my what's up was just sort of delayed there. So, my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and like Rachel said, episode 4. I feel like the episodes have been like progressively getting more and more interesting as time has gone on, and I hope that this trend continues because this episode I feel like was a banger.
Yeah, I thought this was my favorite episode of the season thus far, besides the premiere episode. And I feel like it goes off of what we were saying last week with wanting to see more like camp scenes, some more interpersonal dynamic scenes. And I feel like that's what we saw. We saw a lot from people that we haven't seen before, which was one of our complaints last week. So I liked it. It wasn't 20 minutes of some advantage and then 20 minutes of challenge and tribal, but we really got to see a diverse range of different things from a lot of different people, which I liked.
Yeah, and I feel like you said, we got to hear from people that we haven't heard from as much. Even on the tribes that we've seen more of, like I feel like on Green Tribe, we haven't really seen a lot of Genie, even though Green Tribe has been going to tons of tribal councils, but we got to see more of her this episode, which was really cool. So,
Speaking of, we start off with some post tribal shenanigans, which also feel like we haven't really seen a lot of nighttime camp scenes after tribal council. So, like, seeing the aftermath of the fallout from tribal. So, after like Voce gets voted out, didn't really see much of that aftermath. So, I liked here that they brought it back and we could see the Green Tribe, so much drama of them fighting, duking it out after tribal. And JD and his Rob has a podcast exit interview said that they were like fighting for an hour out there on the beach and everyone was screaming at each other.
yeah, this was it felt kind of like watching mom and dad fight, even though like it wasn't like that at all. It was just kind of uncomfortably personal, especially because when Genie and Ricard were fighting, JD was there making comments about like the fight they were having, and it's kind of like it was just Jeannie was upset because she was out of the loop. Ricard was upset because she had voted for both him and JD at one point, and so it's kind of like you really expect us to keep you in the loop when you're voting for us, type thing. So I could definitely see both sides had points, but it was not a fun argument to watch.
A lot of drama, and then Genie is saying, "Oh, I'm not going to cook anymore," which comes up later when they win the reward. And then JD gets into it because then he's mad that, "Oh, why did I get so much blowback when I didn't tell you all about this advantage, but Shan knew about Brad's steal a vote advantage and no one is mad at her." So it seems like this fight just sort of snowballed of, oh, Jeannie is mad about being left out of the vote, which is very warranted. And she was blindsided with the Brad vote. To then, oh, now people are mad at Shan, people are mad at JD. Ricard is in there fighting with everyone. And it was like such a hot mess.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was funny because Shan tried to like tattle on Brad, but then it ended up not going as well as I think she would have hoped. It was just I feel like it really set the stage for the rest of like what happened to Green throughout this episode because they were the ones who lost the immunity challenge and eventually went to tribal as we kind of alluded to, but it's like I definitely feel like this argument was necessary to set the stage for the rest of Green's interactions for this episode.
And I feel like we don't really see too much this is fighting anymore, or even people like they're not doing personal attacks here, so that's good, but even just everything is boiling over, it's a high stress situation, you're not eating, you're not sleeping, so to be agitated about certain things and to have it boil over like this does seem very natural, very human. And I feel like in South Survivor South Africa that we were just podcasting about for the most recent seasons, we didn't really see any of this kind of natural human response to, oh, being blindsided about a vote, oh, to not sharing your information with other people. So it's cool to see, like, yes, these people have these normal reactions and they're showing it to us on the screen rather than let's skip over it, like you're saying, because it does play into Shan here gives the extra vote back to JD, which does come back up again. And oh, is Genie on the outs? Are they going to vote her out because they don't need her for food sources anymore? Maybe. And so it does set the stage for the rest of the episode. I agree.
Yeah, and I think that part of it is also it was a very natural conflict. Like it didn't feel contrived, and I feel like some people had some complaints about later in the episode. There were some moments that felt really like very contrived, or at least like not as natural as they could be. So this was nice because it was very emotional, but it wasn't emotional in like a like I guess snobby way,
And it
an
wasn't personal,
overblown
it
way.
wasn't mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
So going into the reward challenge, you have to toss a ball into a track, run over some high ropes to catch it, dig under a beam, and then your ball, you have to sort of basketball hoop it, land it on a high perch. The winner, Jeff says, you get to have a visitor at your camp to teach you things. And I really, for some reason, I thought that Jeff was going to say Cochran. I don't know. I really just thought it was a former Survivor player they were bringing out. And I was like, that's so weird. In the pandemic with all of these like quarantine restrictions, they were out there quarantining for 3 weeks. How did they get a former player to come out here?
Yeah, it was. I felt bad because the first place was this like Fijian guy who could like teach you everything that you needed to know, and then second place was a single fish. So that was.
There's a whole Reddit post about that fish. Like about how it was sort of crappy compared to the first place finish, and then people are saying, oh, the whole breed of this fish, it's like a coral eating fish and not a like meat eating fish. So I don't know, it was interesting. There's like so many comments on that Reddit thread about this fish.
The fish is the star of the show, I guess.
After Nathan star one, this blue pretty fish. And a lot of people were commenting like, is this the real fish that they ate, or was this more like a prop and the real fish was like on ice or in a cooler? Because it does seem a little bit gross that this fish is just out there festering in the sun, not on ice. Like you're going to eat some kind of bacteria if you're carrying that back to camp.
Yeah, let's just hope that they considered that.
Hopefully the blue fish was a fake fish and the one they ate was a separate one.
Yeah, but so this reward challenge, when I was talking about like contrived emotional moments, a lot of people thought that basically what happened was the blue tribe got stuck because Heather could not make it through the ball tossing challenge thing. She had this whole breakdown. Her tribe mates comforted her. And I feel like people were fine with that part, but Jeff then jumped in and was like, Heather, how does this feel? And like made a whole production of it. And people were like, maybe just like let the emotional moments happen naturally instead of like pointing it out and making a big deal of it.
It is interesting because here Heather has inspirational music. Oh, yes, Heather didn't give up, which is really great. But how come when other people suck at immunity challenges, Jeff doesn't have a similar reaction and they get the clown music like, ah, this person sucks kind of thing. Like they can't do this, they can't do that. And so it's just sort of weird that now if you're bad at challenges, now you get this whole like segment. And it's not like a Suri moment where we've had Suri for so many seasons, and then to see her get across the balance beam, like it means a lot for us as a viewer and stuff like that. But like
We
Heather,
haven't seen Heather.
this is our first introduction to Heather, which it's a great introduction. I think really, really good for Heather to continue to keep trying, even though she couldn't get past that ball part. And like that part is hard, especially she looks shorter. If you have shorter legs, you can't high step over those ropes as quick to catch your ball. And then she couldn't even get the ball correctly into the chute to even get to the high step part of the rope challenge. So I don't know. It was great that she kept trying, but it just is weird that that became such a big moment and not clown music.
Yeah. It's also like Blue didn't really need to win this challenge. It was just a reward challenge. They've had rewards before. It's not like they're starving or anything. So I don't know. It felt like it wasn't that high stakes. So like to make it a big thing just didn't make much sense.
I would think if that were me, it'd be so embarrassing. It reminded me so much of gym class where they're forcing you to do like kickball or baseball, soccer, football, whatever kind of sport, and like you're not good at it, but then the PE teacher is like, you need to do this in order to get a grade. Otherwise, you're going to fail gym class, which is like WTF. And so then everyone is standing around like watching you do some sport and then you're sucking at it. I would just be like, everyone stop looking at me. I don't need the whole group to clap after I keep trying to do this. Like, for me, I'd prefer everyone just mind your own business. You don't need to make a big deal about me sucking at this sport or whatever.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't make me feel good if everyone is like being patronizing.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, good job. Like, Rachel, Alyssa, you did the kickball. Like, you hit the ball with the baseball bat. Like, I'd be like, nope, please let me quit. Like, this is so embarrassing, especially for national TV. I don't know. I'd just be like, I'm quitting this challenge, please. Sydney, whoever's behind me, you can go. Like, I don't need to go yet. I can go last.
Yeah. But so green ends up winning first, yellow wins second, so they get their single blue fish. And while they're eating their fish back at camp, they have a secret surprise waiting for them in the form of baby turtles. I thought this whole scene was so cute. It's like the baby turtles were hatching and then going to the ocean. They were watching these little turtles fight their way to the ocean. It was sweet.
I thought it was really cute too. It reminded me of like Finding Nemo, and like these are a bunch of little squirts going into the ocean. Yeah, I don't know. It was really cute. And Tiffany did so well at the challenge for reward. She was doing the basketball portion and landed like 3 out of the 4 balls, I think. And so, sort of, I guess, opposite to like Heather here, where Heather didn't do well. Tiffany, a few episodes we saw, didn't do well on the balance beam, but here she is like beasting out the basketball portion. And so Heather might not be good at throwing the ball and jumping over high step ropes, but maybe Heather is good at a lot of other things. And I don't know. It is interesting. It's like, does she like we were talking about last week? If she continues to sit out of the immunity challenges, though, then Blue will never lose. So we'll never see them go to tribal.
Yeah, and it's like that's one of the benefits of winning early on because then you can be strategic about who you put in or not. So,
Yeah, and I also really liked Danny at that moment when he was being a coach, comforting Heather. I thought that was a really good moment. Although
yeah.
I'd be like, everyone else, you don't need to cheer. Danny, great with his little pep talk there.
Yeah, you don't need like everyone. You just need one person who like knows the right things to say.
Yeah, but Green, they get Nathan as their reward, not that small little fish. Genie in a confessional says that Nathan is like a Circus Soleil person and the best stripper that you've ever seen. So that was interesting, I guess.
I thought it was interesting because they never actually showed Nathan like teaching them how to do anything. Because it's like I don't think any of them are going to be able to copy his technique for like climbing up the tree. They showed Nathan fishing, but they didn't really show anyone else like learning how to fish. And so I was kind of like, did he actually teach them things and they just decided to show the other stuff because it was more like fun? Or was his like teaching them things just getting them food for a day?
Hopefully teaching, I guess. Maybe he did the fun way of climbing up the coconut tree, but then he showed them how to get coconuts because they won't be climbing up the tree like that. Yeah, spearfishing, maybe they had clips of them, but they thought the Nathan clip was cooler to show. And how to cook the food is probably really useful so it has more flavor, and he was showing them like, okay, here's how you can season it with coconut water and stuff to make it taste better. So I think that's really, really interesting, and hopefully the people like learned a lot and they're actually going to use it and it will be helpful on their time on the island rather than like, okay, yeah, just food for a day, they got 3 4 fish or whatever and they're not going to use the information. I guess it's sort of like college if you don't use the information anymore.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember much of what we learned in college, so yikes. But
So hopefully they use the information, right?
hopefully.
But then we also get to go and see the Blue Tribe. And here Erica, from the preview last week, we saw Erica here saying Sydney's reactive and impulsive. Sydney can't make the fire. And then we see Erica talking with Deshawn about wanting to vote Sydney out. Deshawn is apprehensive of this because he says that Erica is so quiet. That's sneaky. We don't like someone that is too quiet because you know that they're thinking in the background. But I think here it's good on Erica for having a plan, trying to get her way, sort of juxtaposed to Liana, where she was crying at the start of last episode, saying how she feels like she let the game pass her by with the Xander versus Voce vote and not getting her way. So I'm like, okay, good for Erica. She's at least trying to do something. But like we haven't seen too much of Erica thus far, but also bad of Erica for choosing to talk to Deshawn about this. Maybe that's a bad read. We don't really haven't seen so much of their tribe dynamics, but for us as an outside perspective, we can see, okay, maybe Deshawn is closer to Sydney. They're seemingly tight, so maybe telling Deshawn you want to vote Sydney out isn't the best choice, but I guess, you can't really fault Erica because we haven't seen too much of the Blue Tribe. Maybe Erica and Deshawn are close on the side. We don't really know.
Yeah, it's hard to judge whether or not this was a good decision without knowing all of the stuff that was going on. Though I do wonder, like with Erica, it's like, why are you throwing out a name when you haven't even gone to tribal yet and you're not sure if you're going to go to tribal? Just because it's one of those things where it does make you seem more sneaky if you're just throwing people under the bus with no reason.
So maybe it's a little bit premature too. It also does feel like because it's only day 9 right now on this episode, and Jeff at the immunity challenge is like, okay, day 10 if you make it past today. So it's only been a week. And these people were in 3 weeks of quarantine prior to the show. So they've been around for like a month. But in like 39 days Survivor, maybe this would have been like 2 weeks kind of thing. So it is maybe because of the extended quarantine period and then the fast paced nature of a 26-day season that Erica is maybe too antsy and she like wants to maybe go to tribal council and wants to say a name because 4 or 5 people have already been voted out of the game. And it's like, oh, I want to get my torch. I want to start playing. I want to go see Jeff at Tribal just to get that experience. But I agree. In the Rob Has a Podcast Rob did with Parvati yesterday, and I watched it today, Parvati was saying something similar like, if you have this strong group, you shouldn't be saying any names and you should go to the swap or the merge with this strong group. But it does seem like human nature. People want to be antsy, they want to play the game, and they're always going to say a name. Like you'll never have this group of 6 not say a name and just be kumbaya until the merge, I feel like.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where like just chilling out and not saying a name makes people feel like they're somehow doing less, even though
Mm-hmm.
that could be the exact right thing to do. It's one of those things where like inaction doesn't feel good, even if inaction is the better action.
But yeah, they should be. It's summer camp. We're all just hanging out. We're not trying to backstab each other and just create that communal bond. So when you do hit a merge or something, you will stay tribe strong. But now it does really seem like on the Blue Tribe, it's maybe Nasir, Heather, and Erica as a 3 versus Deshawn, Danny, and Sydney as a 3. So maybe if that's how Erica is seeing it, and Erica is close with Heather and Nasir, and we've seen Heather and Nasir, Sydney, they all have some bad blood. Sydney throwing out Nasir's name constantly. Heather and Sydney don't really get along. So maybe Erica is thinking, okay, we're a 3. I need to pull in Deshawn or Danny to vote out Sydney. And that's why she picked Deshawn to tell her plans to. But I don't know. It seems like cool kids versus like the outcasts. And the outcasts are Erica, Heather, Nasir on the Blue Tribe right now.
Yeah, and I think the other thing with this whole tribal unity versus division thing is going into the immunity challenge, the Blue Tribe was considering throwing the challenge. And it's like, why would you do that when, like, it's not even like there was a particularly big fight that, like, one person was making life untenable. So it's one of those things where, like, you're really willing to put yourself down in numbers just because of a little bit of a petty grudge. So it just all around seemed like bad choices.
I think what Deshaun said, he's very devious D-Rad here. He hasn't said that nickname on the episode yet, but like he was talking with Danny, hey, let's throw this challenge where he's not necessarily wrong, I think, in the thinking where we need to get rid of people. So when we hit the merge or a swap, that kind of thing, we don't want to have the most numbers because we'll be the easy people to pick off, which I think that does make a lot of sense because say there was a merge this episode, it would be 6-4, or next episode, it'd be 6-4-3, 6 blue, 4 yellow, 3 green. Yellow and green could come together and make a 7 versus 6 blue if next week was the merge. Doesn't look like it, but maybe the merge is the week after. So throwing a challenge to maybe lessen your numbers could be helpful there, but I don't know. It's also like what Parvati was saying too. You maybe want to go into that kind of setting as a strong 6, not saying anyone's name, not having any kinds of divisions. But I feel like that's so hard to do. Just like 6 random people living together, you're going to have some problems that maybe it makes more sense to get rid of one of those people. But yeah, like you're saying, it's not like someone is so annoying or someone has shat talked you, or like maybe they just want to go to tribal because they haven't had to prove their loyalties yet and they want to test that out before the merge.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things where if it occurred naturally, I would say go for it. But the fact that they tried to like manufacture this whole situation is what I still get stuck on. Where it's
Occur
like,
naturally, just stick Heather in they should have just had her in there. They made her sit out. So
yeah, exactly. So, whatever.
I thought it was funny, Danny's confessional saying how throwing a challenge would be a sin because he's a professional athlete. I thought that was funny. Come to the immunity challenge. Deshaun had some good confessionals saying how he's retying the knots. He's trying to go slow, but even him trying to go slow, then we cut to Evie swimming horizontally, like swimming the wrong way on their tribe. And it reminded me of Pitch Perfect, like vertical running. Like Evie was just going the wrong way.
I just think it's funny when it's like a tribe is trying to throw the challenges, but then the other tribes are just so bad that it doesn't even matter. So, and that definitely felt like that.
Yeah, it would have also been funny sort of when throwing the challenges backfires and say like Deshaun or Danny got voted out or even Sydney got voted out and Erica got her way. And yeah, they were trying to lose so hard, but they were still in first or second place. Then Nasir, yes, he beasted it on the rings. And I do wonder, so like Erica, Nasir, do they watch this episode now and then they see, oh my gosh, we were in such a perilous situation. If Nasir didn't win it for our team, throw the ring toss rings that well, like Erica maybe would have gone home this episode. I want to see like their reactions. Do they realize how much of a win this was needed for Nasir? And if Nasir and Erica and Heather are working together, how like Nasir just saved his group.
I'm sorry, you said Nasir went beast mode, and all I can think of is that Nasir would be the best of beast mode cowboy. So, but yeah, I feel like maybe eventually later in the game, like Erica and Nasir and Heather like kind of realized what was going on. Because I feel like when tribes have thrown challenges before, people kind of realize later on that it was like thrown on purpose, or they learn later in the game that it was thrown on purpose. So I feel like watching the episode would not be the first time they heard of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Like, are they just seeing it now, post show, 8 months, 6 months later? Or, okay, Ponderosa, they've talked about it, like, haha, we were trying to vote you out day 9, but you made it here because of the challenge win. Like, that's the interesting kind of stuff. Like, do they realize how much of a perilous situation it was? And Nasir becoming such a meme on the internet from his line in episode 2 where he says, that is Nasir. Now it's sort of like the Yule meme on Reddit where people just comment Yule, Yule, Yule over. People are starting to comment, that is Nasir over and over and over again on Reddit. So it's so funny. So I'm glad Nasir did so well at this challenge that he has now become more of a meme.
Yeah, Nasir is just like I enjoy watching him. He seems like a fun guy.
I 100% agree. I also liked in this challenge how they had the in challenge confessionals where Danny and Deshawn they got to narrate their thoughts. It sort of felt very Big Brother-esque. And so it was cool to see rather than just hearing Jeff shouting all the time, "Oh, this is what Danny and Deshawn were trying to do. Danny and Deshawn were trying to throw the challenge. Deshawn's confessionals, I was retying the knots. Like, why did Nasir have to do so well? I'm happy for him, but boo, we wanted to lose this challenge." I really liked hearing those thoughts rather than Jeff just shouting, "Oh, Deshawn sucks at this challenge. What is up?" So I liked how you can get that background information there.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like sometimes when they say that they threw a challenge afterwards, I'm like, did you actually, or did you just suck? So the fact that they were narrating throughout and also they didn't lose was kind of like, oh, so you didn't just suck at this challenge.
When you try your best, when you try your worst, but you still succeed.
Yeah. And I feel like part of the reason why Blue was able to win was because of JD just going for style points instead of substance. I had to look up who Allen Iverson was because Shan referenced him when she was talking about JD and his like throwing skills. He's a basketball player apparently, so that was cool. I learned something new. But yeah, Green ends up coming in dead last, which means they're the ones going to tribal council.
What are your thoughts on money?
I gotta say, I really love Shan as a narrator just because she's like the perfect balance between telling what happened and like just giving the best snarky comments. So I love her as a
Tribal.
narrator.
I yeah, I can see both ways where JD in his RHAP exit interview, he was saying sort of like everyone says stuff like that in the challenges, so it's this was just the thing that was shown to make him look like a goofball on TV kind of thing. And also he was saying, "Oh, he was the one throwing all of the rings. The other people should have tried or thrown rings if they wanted to win the challenge. Like, can't blame him for sucking at ring toss, I guess." But he says he was taking it with a good, and he said that money might be his new catchphrase. So he's not taking it like a sad boy, "Oh, this was a goofball moment, clown music on TV," but he's going to take it with some pride, which I think is funny. So funny money.
Yep. But so because of his tribal performance, challenge performance, JD is one of the possible names that gets thrown out for going home. And then obviously, like we talked about earlier, Genie is the other possibility because she is just butting heads with the rest of her tribe. And I personally really liked the editing on this segment because I feel like it was pretty evenly split between whether JD or Genie would go home. You could see the arguments for each of them, and it didn't feel like a blindside even though JD was blindsided. Like we as the viewer knew some things that were happening. So yeah.
And JD and Genie, when we saw them talking after the immunity challenge, I was like, oh, they should work together and they could have a 3-2 and vote out Ricard or Shan because of JD's extra vote. Um, JD in the exit interview also was saying that he thought of that, but Genie really wanted to work with Shan. So JD was then forced to go to Shan and try to get back in like Shan's good graces to not get voted out. So it wasn't like, oh, these people aren't thinking of all of the options, but I at least was glad, JD did think, let me try to work with Genie to be a 3-2. But then I think that goes to show kudos for Shan's game that Shan, even though she, Ricard, JD, they all blindsided Genie last week, that Genie still really wanted to work with Shan and wasn't willing to flip and vote with JD, even though it would have been a 3-2 vote against Shan or Ricard this week.
Yeah, I feel like it would have been interesting if they had teamed up, but also I like the way that things did happen better. I also feel like Genie deserves serious props because like she never the whole time like lapsed in her acting. She if she knew before tribal that she was not going home, she never let it slip to JD, and I feel like that's really great cuz sometimes when we have this thing and someone else is on the bottom, they like oversell it, and then the person knows that like, oh, they're not actually going home. But like, props to Genie on this one.
100% agree. I wrote that in my notes. Genie's acting, at beach, at tribal was so on point. It wasn't in the episode of Shan. Maybe Ricard was in those conversations as well, but conversations had to happen to make Genie feel comfortable enough to work with Shan and Ricard again, to make her feel like she was safe and she wasn't going to get voted out, so that she wouldn't use her shot in the dark, and believe that yes, we are going to vote JD out, and I'm not being bamboozled into not playing my shot in the dark and then getting voted out because of that, and then just acting so scared and sad. I was like, dang, we need to see some more of Genie, because that was just so good. I think it was so believable, her acting.
I really hope that Genie and Shan and Ricard can somehow become an unlikely power trio, just because I feel like they would be such an interesting trio. Or like Shan and Ricard are both like kind of sneaky, very smart players. And like, not to say that Genie isn't strategic, but like she definitely is more on like the social, emotional side of things. And just like, I feel like they would be such a great power throuple.
Thruple. I agree. I don't want to see Green go back to tribal again. I want to see those three make it to the merge, which there's no tribe swap, so the merge coming up. I want to see how they'll do. But before tribal, we see Shan trying to get JD's extra vote for a second time. When we saw Shan acting all nervous, going up to JD saying, I think I'm getting voted out, JD. I'm just so scared. Do you trust me? I don't know if I can trust you. I really thought that she was overplaying with the acting, and then that maybe JD would flip on her, or people would be like, oh, that's sort of annoying. Like, why is she so wishy-washy? Why is she so paranoid? But it worked. I was so surprised.
Yeah, yeah. I just, I was also very surprised. Exactly what you said. So,
So Shan, I think, yeah, I'm just surprised because people could take it totally as a threat, sort of like an ultimatum. Shan saying, JD, I don't trust you. You might not trust me. In order to gain my trust, I need XYZ from you. I need to hold this extra vote again. I feel like if you're hearing that, you're like, heck no, you're threatening me. I'm going to vote you out. Like, why don't you trust me? I let you hold my advantage last week. I've done nothing to show you that I'm untrustworthy besides just not telling you about this advantage. We've voted together this entire time, yada, yada. Like, I don't know, if you heard that, you'd just be like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, why don't you trust me? And it would sort of be annoying to hear that. So I don't know. I feel like I guess it goes back to show Shan's good social game. If you're a regular person, you'd probably say, no, I'm not going to give you the advantage. I know I trust you. If you can't take me for my word, take me for my votes. We voted together. And if you can't trust that, I'm sorry. Like, we can't work together, kind of thing. Not really saying that out loud, but thinking it. And then maybe voting her out there because you're like, why doesn't she trust me? Like, we haven't done anything to blindside you. Genie, sure, she might not trust us, but Shan, we've been working together.
I thought it was so sad though, because JD was like, I could see the sincerity in her eyes, and Shan was playing him the whole time. So JD learned to judge character better, I suppose.
Goes to show Shan's good acting, Shan's good social game. It wasn't an overplay of acting paranoid that would make other people dislike you and want to vote you out. JD's confessional, or just saying out loud, I don't want to be the dummy leaving my advantage back at camp. But alas, he gave his advantage to Shan to try to build trust back. Okay, but Shan gets that advantage. I need your trust. Let me hold your advantage again. And it was like we were saying last week. We said, Shan, we don't think that she would do this kind of move. JD is her little brother. They have a familial relationship. Like, no way would Shan do this and take his advantage. But dang, Shan came here to play and is a very likable, villain-esque character.
The thing is, I can't even call her a villain, because like she's just so like she's not like bitchy about it. Like she does it because it's what's best for her game, and she's like, she really is the mafia bastard, where she's like praying for them in front of their faces and then kicking them out the door. So I
Stabbing you
really
in the back with a smile, literally,
stabbing you in
because
the back as she's like hugging you. It's the whole thing.
because JD, Brad, both in their exit interviews, they had glowing remarks for Shan. They're not bitter or anything. Like, they're like, dang, Shan, amazing gameplay. So it's not like other people who might vote you out and be nice to your face, mean to you behind your back, vote you out, blindside you, where they hate you after the fact. But it's like Shan's social game has to be so good that she's getting people to tell her all of these things, letting them hold their advantages, and then not hating you after the fact and realizing, yeah, it was a game. I wish I could have made it further in the game, but like, thumbs up, Shan, good move.
Yeah, I just Shan. If we could like pick new winner picks, I would pick Shan. Even though I feel like she's probably going to get voted out for being too snaky at some point. I don't care. I love her. So
Fourth place, Rob Goddess, I think now.
I feel like a lot of people could be that though. So I guess we'll have to see as things go on.
But we go to tribal council. I feel like voting out JD makes sense, similar to like we were saying last week with Brad. Brad is a wild card. JD is sort of a wild card. Genie seems less wild cardy. Like Genie would be more of a loyal soldier in your alliance versus Brad and JD seem like more of the people that will stay with you for now, but then jump ship whenever like better options come or when they see, hey, I need to blindside you and vote you out now. So Shan struck first, even though everyone online is like, why would you vote Brad out? Why would you vote JD out? They're loyal people. I feel like Shan is number ones with like everyone on the team. So it's like, you're going to have to vote one of these people out. So I guess it goes back to her social game again.
Yeah, I feel like also JD, because he was such a fan of the game, like there were ways where he overplayed it. And so you want someone who isn't as interested in making a big flashy move for the sake of being a fan of the game.
Mm.
So, yeah, like you said, it makes sense to vote him out, especially because Shan has other loyal people. It seems like she and Ricard are tight. And even if Genie isn't super loyal to her, I feel like there is some trust there now. So, yeah.
Like last week, we were saying we wanted to see more of Genie. Why wasn't Genie on the table to be voted out last week? How close is Genie to everyone? Like this week, we saw Genie mad at everyone for blindsiding her. So I do want to see more. Like, is she tight in with Shan and Ricard, or did they just bring Genie in this week so that they could use her to vote out JD? And they're going to get rid of her next week or ditch her come the merge or something like that. It's sort of interesting, like, was she brought into this plan and were fences mended, or are grudges still there? Because it could have just been acting, but maybe Ricard and Genie still have a rift between them because Genie put down Ricard's name episode 1.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how this keeps evolving. I would love to see Blue go to tribal council next week just because then we could finally get some closure. And yeah, I'm just really excited because, like we said, the episodes this season have been getting better and better as time goes on. I'm excited.
And Shan, if Green does go to tribal again, hopefully not. Like we were saying, I want to see Shan, Ricard, Genie make the merge as a thruple, as Alyssa said, a fearsome threesome. We need a better rhyming word there. But Shan is a really good spot because, like we said last week with voting Brad out, everyone wants to work with Shan. Shan now, if it's a 3-person going to tribal council, Ricard, Genie maybe still have that rift. They probably won't work together. And Shan is able to pick, does she want to go with Genie or Ricard? She's the swing vote there. So she can choose, really, unless Genie and Ricard somehow work together. But we haven't seen that as a viewer that they're that close.
Yeah. So let us know in the comments down below what you thought of this week. Do you think voting out JD was the right idea? What do you think of Genie? Oh, one more thing.
Yeah, just for the preview for next week, Genie
right,
might not be able to vote. It seems like maybe she found the idol beware advantage. So Brad's advantage for the green team might have been rehidden. So it'll be Broccoli, Genie, Genie talking about broccoli upcoming, but also last week in the comments, someone was saying that maybe because Evie and Deshaun at the island talked about this idol, that Deshaun told his team not to find it, and that's why Blue hasn't found it yet. So Genie could totally screw herself over next week if she picks that up. They go to tribal, and Oling, Ricard, and Shan can vote. Like, it's a hot mess.
Yeah, I do wonder though, like, shouldn't she know that Brad had this advantage? So,
I
come
guess
on.
she knows, right? She knows that you'd lose your vote because she read the clue with Brad, right? Or like they know.
Yeah.
Huh.
So,
Don't pick it up, I guess, but it'll be interesting. Hopefully Genie can find the idol clue. Maybe the idol gets activated. If not, they don't go to tribal, so it's not just Shan and Ricard voting Genie out when she doesn't have a vote. Like, that would sort of suck. Shan has an extra vote now, which presumably could work, so she has even more power. And just sort of sad, JD getting voted out, being such a big fan, having your dreams crushed. I'm like, that's sort of sad.
yeah. And he was your winner pick, right?
Yes, alas. But I feel like the pre-merge episodes, it's sort of like a JD storyline where Jeff does seem to like him, so maybe he could get invited back to some kind of season. But I feel like being so young, like we were saying, and also like the quarantine, seems like JD just came out of the gate swinging too hard. And if he comes back chiller and less like super fan, telling everyone how much he likes the show and watches the show, he can go further. And the
I feel
small
like he
tribes.
also just needs like a couple more years of experience to learn how
Mm-hmm.
to like be a person. So,
Sad. I said JD was the 20-year-old gonna make it the furthest, but alas, I guess.
alas.
Now I'll go to Liana.
Anyways, like I was saying earlier, let us know in the comments down below what you think of this episode. Do you think voting out JD was the right choice? What do you think about Genie? What about Heather? What do you think of the Yase turtles? We want to know all of your thoughts, and we will see you guys next week for another episode of Survivor.